Good morning. So good to see you. Happy June 24th. Tomorrow is my birthday. I'm just saying. And if you're watching this on replay, you can still wish me happy birthday. I've just decided to own it, to embrace it. It is what it is. And we get older every year. And, I'm feeling pretty good. I was doing this exercise class last night, and I do it every Wednesday out on the lawn. And I'm always like one of the oldest. And I keep up with these kids, and I feel really good about it. So tomorrow is my birthday. I will be 1 year older. And so you are welcome to wish me a happy birthday. And I am feeling pretty good about it. So I'm going to go get I'm going to go do 10 miles around this lake. Actually, it's going to end up being more once I take the dart. But anyway, so that's that. I'm super excited for it. And today we're talking about imposter syndrome. So how can we not like talking about imposter syndrome? Because so many of us deal with this in our daily life, especially high achieving women. So imposter syndrome's actually been around, the term imposter syndrome, since 1978, I believe it was. Not that long. Yeah, not that long, just a little over 40 years. And yet it's something we've identified that so many of us are dealing with. So that doesn't mean it didn't exist before 1978. It just means that that's when it was given an actual medical term, maybe a terminology that we can all identify and relate to. So what is it? What is it? Which, by the way, before I get started, I do have a podcast and I release these every Friday. And tomorrow I'm going to be releasing one on imposter syndrome, where I talk to these two amazing women in the UK about the same topic. So if you want more, then go out to Level Up to 2.0, and that's where you will find more information. So what is imposter syndrome? It's feeling like a phony. It's feeling like a fraud. And you think, maybe at a glance, you think, well, that's crazy. I don't feel like a fraud. So think about some of the positions that you've been in. Maybe you're growing a company. Maybe you're starting a company. Or maybe you got your first management position. I mean, hand clap, you got your first management position. And yet there's something in the back of your mind that's saying, you got this by luck. You didn't get this because you're actually qualified. You got this because of luck. And maybe you say it's because they're looking to have more minorities. Maybe it's because, maybe you're Black and you say, oh, well, it's because they needed more Black people there, right? Or maybe they needed more Asians, or maybe they needed more women. I'm not picking on anybody. What I'm saying is that these are some of the things that we tell ourselves that put us into the imposter syndrome, that instead of our skills or qualifications, that we find some reason for why we had this dumb luck. Well, affirmative action, and so I got this position. I don't know. Maybe you got it because you were qualified. I remember talking to someone one time and they said, no, I didn't get this job because, because I'm qualified. I got it because, and they started listing off all of these reasons. And they said, I'm a nice person. And that's probably why I got it. I remember them saying this. And I said, okay, well, I don't doubt that being a nice person is one of the qualifications. Because who wants to hire somebody on their team that's like a jerk? I don't know. I've hired many people before, and I've had many interviews where I'm interviewing people for other teams or people for my own team. And I've never thought, ooh, you're a jerk, I should hire you. No. So yeah, I truly believe that you being a nice person is a qualification. And so when I was talking to this lady, I mean, you could see how uncomfortable she was in that position. I think she was the only Black woman that was in a predominantly or all male dominated industry, whatever it was. I can't remember what the industry was, but I remember seeing her face and thinking, and as she's talking and saying, well, it's because, I'm really nice. And so they gave me this job. I'm like, yeah, I do think that that's one of the qualifications. But do you think they're just handing out jobs to unqualified people? Like, hey, you're nice. Let's let's give you the job. No, that's legit one of the qualifications. And you fill that position. And do you think that they're just gonna hand it over when especially they've been handpicking maybe all these men and now they're like, hey, look, here's a woman and she's qualified. But ladies, we do this to ourselves so often where we're finding these reasons. Oh, I'm hired because I'm nice, or oh, I'm hired because I fit the affirmative action guidelines, or I'm a female and they need more females, or whatever. Ladies, let's step into our power and let's own what we've done in our life. So, feeling like an imposter tends to come with these women that are doing things. And as we are going up the ladder or accomplishments or whatever, we start to doubt ourselves and we start to look for reasons why we got there, or saying, oh, it's dumb luck. Or if anybody figures out that I'm not really who I say I am, then oh my gosh. So, for example, I remember the first time, because at some point, every manager had a first. Every single manager has a first time. And I remember my first time. Now, I was managing, like I was a project manager. I had other management, on my resume, but I had never managed people. And so when I managed people for the first time, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, and it was with my staff. What if they find out that this is the first time I've ever done this? How are they going to feel about me? Are they going to take me seriously? Is there going to be a coup that happens and they're going to overrun me? I know it sounds silly, but this is what's going through my mind. Oh, maybe I'm too young. Because I was early 30s when this happened. Look, if I had really thought through it, I don't know how old she is. What's her name? What's the youngest Kardashian? Or maybe she's a Jenner. I don't know. Whichever the youngest one, doesn't matter. The billionaire, the like multi-billionaire, the youngest one, whatever her name is. She was like 18, 19 and like a billionaire. So how can I not be 30 years old and a manager of like 3 people? Yeah, I think I can. I'm pretty sure. But we have this, I don't know, idea of, okay, maybe age and management level come hand in hand, or maybe I need a little bit more practice, or maybe I need a little bit more of this. And so do I have the skills? Instead of walking in and confidently saying, hey, look, I haven't done this before, but that's okay. Like every parent is a parent for the first time. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of imposter syndrome there. Can I raise this kid? What are the other parents going to think? What are other people going to say about me? Oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. And so we go through this dialogue. So it's not just in the office, it's in everything in our lives. It is not just in one area. And we start to get this self-doubt. But where does it come from? A lot of it comes from comparing. We're looking at what other people are doing. We're saying, okay, I see this many managers and they are in their 40s. I'm in my 30s. So therefore, should I be here, or was this dumb luck? Oh, are people going to say, well, she's not good enough because she's not old enough? She doesn't have enough experience, and that's clear because of all these reasons. So instead of focusing our time and attention into maybe crafting our skills, or taking leadership courses, or talking to our mentor, or whatever, we kind of stew on these insecurities internally. And what have we learned by on this show is that we only have so much time and attention that we can put towards anything. So if you're putting it towards your worry, your concern, this feeling of being false and phony, you're taking that energy away from working on your craft, supporting yourself, elevating yourself, focused on whatever you're doing, you're taking away from it. So you're comparing yourself to other people, and that's how you define where you should be. Well, let's think about this one for a minute. And just like every manager has their first time, every parent has their first time. There is a first time for everything. There is not a one of us on this planet that hasn't had all of these firsts. I didn't walk out of the womb walking. I had to fall down how many times? Or I had to crawl how many times before I started walking? So, would this have been a realistic expectation? Would you look at a child and say, child should be walking, and they just started crawling? No, that's just the natural progression. None of us come out and say, okay, well, I've done this 25 times and you're 5 years old. No, you haven't started businesses when you're 5. You haven't managed teams. You haven't done any of that. The only thing you've done is maybe play with some kids and you've learned not to bite. That's the only thing you've done. So we're all going through this journey and we all have our firsts. So why is it that when we step into these positions, and maybe it's stepping into a new salary grade, maybe it's stepping into a new industry, maybe it's stepping into a completely new career for yourself, and you shift, it's not just one industry to another, but you have the same position. Well, I was a director there, so I could be a director here. No. I mean, I stepped out of corporate. I was working in IT for 15 years. And I stepped out and I wanted to help women. I wanted to coach women. I wanted to be on stages to speak and motivate. I wanted to be of service in a completely different capacity. Maybe that's you, but you have to have that first. And if you are taking that energy away and saying, I'm false, I'm phony, what does that put you in? It puts you into a state of suffering. This whole entire week, we've been talking about, is your mind working for you or against you? And the way that you can tell is by if you're in one of these states of suffering. So how does it feel when you're, a fake and you're covering it up? You feel some level of fear. You feel fearful. Somebody's going to find me out. Think about when you were a kid and you played hide and go seek. Do you remember how that felt? And you're like hiding in the closet and you hear the feet. You hear the feet like around the closet and your heart starts pumping. Maybe you feel like you need to pee. Yeah, that's the feeling. You're anxious. You're fearful. Somebody's going to find me. I don't want them to find me. I'm hiding in this closet. Just go away. So instead of just being at peace, like you're not meditating, you're worried if you're going to pee your pants, you're in fear. You're trying not to make your breath sound like anything. And so your breathing is erratic because you're like, oh, don't breathe. That's what happens. Not to the same degree, but it's literally the same thing. You're hiding. You feel like you're hiding from something. So what do we need to do? How do we get over this? First and foremost, we've talked about this before. Stop comparing. Ladies, stop comparing. I get it. That person may be further along in their career, but you are looking at them at one point in their career, and they too had their first steps. It's the whole iceberg thing. You know what the iceberg is? So here's what we can see. This is above the water. So an iceberg looks like that. Like that's all you can see above the water. Maybe it's like this. It's a little bigger. It's a little bigger. But under, this is the bottom of the iceberg. That's what you don't see. And this down here is all the work that you've done. This is all the blood, the sweat, the tears, the time, the agony, the lessons. That's down here. But all you see is up here because you're standing up here and you say, oh, look, there's an iceberg. But you have no idea down here all the things that got that person to that place. And the reason that person is where they are today, the reason they're so polished, or the reason they're so respected, or the reason they're as far along, or the reason whatever, is because they went through those lessons. We aren't born with this book of lessons. Yeah, you can read about them in a book, but you even have to read the book in order to get the lessons. Like, you just don't intuitively have everything. I'm not telling you not to use your brain as you're going through some of these things and think through it. You don't have to always learn the hard way. You can learn from other people. You can read about it in a book, apply those learnings. Sometimes we got to go through it. And maybe you think you're going down the right path and you're doing all the right things, and guess what? And it changes. That's what happens. That's life. That's why that person looks so good, is because they've done that themselves. But you have to stop comparing. When you are comparing yourself, you're jeopardizing. You are jeopardizing yourself. You're putting yourself into a state of suffering. And we are not at our best. We are taking time and energy and attention away from whatever it is that we're doing when we are so focused on comparing or whatever that may be. So that's one of the things. Secondly, ask yourself, does this serve me? The way that you're thinking. So you have to be able to identify when these things are happening. And again, we talked about on Monday. So that was 3 episodes ago. We talked about on Monday, how do you identify? And it's if you go into one of these states of suffering. So if you start to feel like, oof, I'm not in a good place, then that's how you start to identify. So ask yourself the powerful question, is this serving me? Flat out ask yourself. So stop comparing. Just stop doing that. And then when you have those feelings arise, say, is what this is doing in my life helping me progress to where I need to be? If I'm in fear, is that helping me along? Remember, we talked about results equal results. That's the only thing that equals results. You don't have to be in fear to equal results. Like my friend who said, I have to be anxious because I have to get my kids to school. No, you just have to get your kids to school. You can be in a good frame of mind and do that. You don't have to be in a state of suffering. I'm just saying, that's just how it is. And you're taking your time and your energy and your attention. So is this thing serving you? Focus on what you do well. Okay. You might not be able to do all of the things because you are learning. And quite frankly, if you are an entrepreneur, you know that you have, like, with a business, there are so many different departments. That's why I used to just work for IT, but I didn't know anything about marketing, business development, whatever, all the things all the finance, all the different departments. There are reasons why everybody has a specialized position, because there are so many things that need to be done. And when you're jumping out and you're doing your own thing, maybe you have a small team, maybe you have a large team, but there are so many things that need to happen. Do you really think you can do everything really, really well? There are millions of types of jobs in this world. Do you think you're good at every million type of job? No. Sometimes you have to outsource. Sometimes you have to ask for help. Sometimes you whatever. Give yourself some grace. Nobody expects you to be this, Wonder Woman of all the things. Boy, she can just do it all. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, she's a scientist and the president, and boy, she sings like a, queen, and she does children's birthday parties, and like, just start going through all the different jobs and be like, am I qualified for these? No, no. nobody expects you. That's why people have their own specialties. So stop comparing. Does this serve you? Focus on what you do well and know that you do not have to be a superhero. Nobody expects that from you unless you are Wonder Woman. And then we have an expectation, and we all have some Wonder Woman in us. Absolutely 100%. But the truth is, we're not actually Wonder Woman. Like when we can start flying around and doing all the things with the superheroes, then maybe. So give yourself some grace, ladies. I know imposter syndrome, it doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to be in that state. So just learn to identify it. It's normal. So many of us go through it. In fact, I think most of us go through it at some point in our life, whether it be the parenting, the office, whatever it is. So I would appreciate if you would like this episode, if you would subscribe to the channel, and if you would share this with your friends. We are here at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time every single day talking about amazing topics. And tomorrow we will wrap up the week. It is also what? My birthday. So I will be here and I will see you then. So we're coming up. We want the world to know, we're gonna let it show. That's right, ladies, because we're coming up. We want the world to know, we're gonna let it show that we are not imposters anymore, right? That's what we are gonna tell ourselves. No more imposter syndrome. We are Wonder Women, but we don't have to do it all. I will see you here tomorrow, same time, same place. Cheers.